hire, and I'm really pretty unimpressed with how this has gone for them, honestly. And I'm trying not to just like sound alarm bells or anything here, but it has not played out the way I thought that it would, or in the way where it seemed like they were really building a brain trust of a lot of different people. And I'm worried about it. I am. I want to try to call it out. And look, I've been very defensive at times of Pete Carroll and the way he has coached the team, and I 100% stand by the belief that he's the right guy to bring back. But that doesn't mean I don't have issues, and when I see them, I'll call them out, and I am worried a little bit about this one. Look, last year they interviewed a lot of candidates for the offensive coordinator job, and the process seemed a little bit off then. They ended up with Shane Waldron. I'm not saying he was the wrong guy, but it seemed from the outside like they were never fully in the driver's seat, in control. Maybe it was the, sort of compromising with Russell Wilson part of it. I think we also had heard that maybe they preferred Mike LaFleur. That's Matt LaFleur's brother. He ended up going to New York with Robert Saleh. I don't know. It just never seemed like they were in the driver's seat, controlling what they wanted and going out and getting it. And I will say, I'm getting even more of that feeling this time with sort of the defensive spot. Now, they end up with Clint Hurt as their defensive coordinator. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted. It sure seems to be, so that's a good thing. And then you get this Ed Donatel thing where he interviewed for the DC, but then they were going to be a defensive assistant, and that sounded great. But now he's going to, pack up and go to Minnesota, and that seems to have kind of caught them by surprise. And we're not sure what's going on with Sean Desai, but there's a good chance that he ends up going somewhere else also. It just doesn't quite smell right. And so it leads me to ask a few questions about things that I worry about. And I can't prove any of these. I don't know exactly what these mean, but they worry me. Things like, one, that Pete doesn't have his pulse on the next generation of these smart, up-and-coming young coordinators, young minds in the NFL. And I gave you some examples earlier from my own life. You can go back, listen to the 7 o'clock hour if you can find it on Apple Podcast or on 710sports.com. Because I understand that, right? Once you've been in one job for a while and you're not meeting all of the same people, all of the younger minds that are out there and who the up-and-comers are, it's hard to stay on top of that stuff. And look, when Pete was in his early years, he had his crew, right? It was Dan Quinn, and it was Chris Richard and Ken Norton, and kind of like he went through all of those guys. And I don't know whether they developed the next crop of guys underneath them to continue to come up and take those next jobs. So that's one. Number two, is this truly a destination for young coaches? Right? Some of that is reputation. Is Pete known for being the creative? No, he's not. It's not to say that it's untrue. I think Pete knows quite a bit about the game of football. But they are more of a, at least reputationally, line up and do their thing kind of a team rather than one that schemes you to death. They're a line up and beat you kind. And so do the most creative young coaches want to show up and be come here if you're an up-and-comer where your creativity may not be on display. And then the third part of this is a question about control. And I don't know how many books have been written and read about millennials and younger and the desire for, satisfaction and control of their own career right off the bat. But the narrative, for better or for worse, for truth or false, here in Seattle is that Pete's still very much in control of everything that goes on. I don't know if that's true, but that's the narrative. That's the story that gets out there. And if you are somewhere else and thinking, do I want to go work for the Seahawks? I want to really be in control. I want to have a lot of, I want to put my stamp on it. But my impression is that that's not really what's going to happen there. Well, I think that could absolutely be a turnoff for some of the younger generation of coaches who might have some of these new creative ideas that are out there. So, Look, that's not the problem with Ed Donatel, obviously 65 years old. But I do think that as you're looking to find the best and the brightest, that those are three things that are at least worth bringing up and trying to figure out exactly how you can remedy that to make sure that it's not just one good coach around here, but a tremendous coaching staff full of brilliant minds that can help put the players in the best position possible to win games.
And to spring forward, your career forward as well. Right, because it's like if that's what are other teams offering that the Seahawks don't? Is it control? Is it the ability to open more of your creativity? Is it title?
It might be all of those things. I don't know that we know the answer. I would hope it's not money, given the fact that you have the wealthiest owner in the league. So I would assume that it's not that. But I those are the fears, Justin. Those are the questions I ask because something seems to be just a little amiss I'm not saying that they're getting it wrong, and they may have found the right guys, but it feels like they're chasing it a little bit rather than sitting in the driver's seat, and that's probably, a cause for some